Welcome to Kessel Run Collecting, a place for fans of 3 3/4 inch action figures, playsets, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Eric and Rezakai.
Hello, listeners. Another episode of Kessel Run Collecting. As you heard in the intro there, I'm your host, Eric, and I'm here with my co-host, Matt, a.k.a. Rezakai.
What's going on, guys?
And with us tonight, we have a guest, Zach McGeehon. Did I say it right? McGeehon?
We'll go with it.
I did correct the spelling, though.
No, you're absolutely good. Yeah, McGeehon.
Yeah, a.k.a. Jodo, which maybe some old-time legend people will know the reference to that.
Man, I'm just waiting for him to show up in the Book of Boba Fett to inevitably probably be introduced and then never be seen again.
Yeah, well, I know there was a lot of speculation that if they did a Boba Fett movie or something like that, that maybe that's how they would go, where Boba Fett became a little bit like the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride, where it's more like a title, and maybe, a Jodo cast or whatever, takes on the mantle as the next Boba Fett. I mean, I could see it happening because they are kind of picking and choosing some stuff from Legends that they're kind of reworking into stuff. But since you mentioned it, Matt, I know you and I haven't even really talked about Book of Boba Fett at all. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, it's got some pluses, got minuses. I like some stuff in it. Like, I liked him starting to set up his own little crime area. The bright colored Vespas. Yeah,
Could have done without that.
Could have done with them being sand pitted and much more muted colors. Then yeah, I could deal with it.
You know what they reminded me of? Those amusement park rides for little kiddies, where they would have these different like cars or motorcycles or whatever. Like oftentimes, like it would sit 4 kids, and they would have like some big metal wheel, so like all 4 kids could pretend they're driving with this enormous wheel that would dent their forehead if they ever hit it. And they were always like these bright metallic colors.
Now, I know exactly. I know that ride, and it goes way much faster than those speeders. It's like twice the speed.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's like they could have just like jumped off and just been like, just run. Just run. You're gonna be able to catch it faster.
Matt's, like long drawn out. There's something I like. There's something there. I know I'm gonna find it. There's something there. I want to like it so bad. I'm mining it each episode. I'm like, I liked that one thing. That one thing was so good, and there's more to complain about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it seems like too big of a departure for what we think of as Boba Fett, him being like he's supposed to be the ultimate bounty hunter. And I don't understand him forming a crime family. Like it doesn't seem in character to him. But I also agree with something I heard from someone else where they said the problem is they've already gotten the Boba Fett series they wanted, and that was called The Mandalorian. So if
I've heard that a few times too.
If they did exactly the same thing, it would be like a carbon copy type show. So they kind of have to do something different with it. That being said, the best episode of the Book of Boba Fett, in my opinion, was the last one, which didn't have Boba Fett in. It was basically another Mandalorian episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Morrison's come out and said he's talking a little too much because it's kind of getting away with it. It's just a different theme going on with it. Like, I liked the first episode was okay, though I wish they would have spent more time with him getting out of the Sarlacc, because that story of how he gets out with talking to the telepath in there is really good.
Yeah. I wish they would have it didn't have to necessarily be a whole episode, but that would have been a good place to have those some of the flashbacks that they did when he was in the back of the tank. Like I
thought
could
that
see
too.
him having some of those flashbacks while he was in the Sarlacc. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but it I feel like for it focusing on Boba Fett, there's been a lot of times where he doesn't really do a whole lot. Like I think he's only shot maybe like 2 people in the whole thing. Uh
And that's what my girlfriend and I talk about a lot, is that there's no real action with him. He talks a lot, he takes his helmet off a lot. Most of the action has been distributed towards Fennec Shand.
Yeah, I
yeah.
noticed that too.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's his retirement. I'm trying to phase myself out, get some new blood in, but he's not really doing much.
yeah, and I think the problem is the fact that this is Boba Fett. And granted, based on what we've seen, even if you include Clone Wars, but based on what we've seen in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, throwing out all the Legends stuff, and in Clone Wars, where pretty much he was a kid, if you just take all that together and you delete in your brain everything else we've heard and been told in Legends, is this consistent with Boba Fett's character? And I would have to say, well, nothing is really contradictory. So how much of it is us basing it on what we know and have read for years in Legends? And I think that's where the problem lies, is as much as Disney wants to just say, yeah, none of that stuff existed, it's like, well, no, it existed for many of us for, a couple decades. And it's really, really difficult to just delete that from your brain and just say, oh, this is something completely different.
I agree. I just recently saw something. It was a Twitter post, and it said something along the lines of, like, lots of dudes are upset about the Boba Fett thing because he's not acting like the tattoo I have on my left shoulder. And I'm like, that's true. Most people like presume it's going to be this action-packed, kind of gnarly series that's fast-paced, and it's been these flashbacks and it's been a slow burn. And I don't know if it's going to pay off in the end, or if we're going to be left with this, cliffhanger that there's going to be a season 2, and maybe that's the payoff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing him ride a Rancor.
Right.
I'm more interested in seeing how he brings everything together. Black Chrysanthemum, which is one of the better characters I've seen.
Oh yeah, like in that first episode where they introduced him, I'm like, oh no, they didn't. And boy, they did a great job on the makeup and everything. He looks badass, and he is badass.
That scene where he's sitting there getting drunk, watching the Trandoshans have fun. I've seen that guy in mini bars, just sitting there pissed off at somebody. Yes, that's exactly how it goes.
And he is played by, I think this is correct, he is played by one of the makeup artists in Hollywood.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere. I can't think of the guy's name. But one thing I do have to say, that they've given us a couple things in Book of Boba Fett where I always know there's a good character design when you say, I want an action figure of it. Chrysanthemum, or however the hell you say his name. Yeah, I want a figure of him now. And I really liked the design of the Tusken chieftain, where he just kind of had a different enough look. I really want a figure of that guy too.
I'd like one of the Pikes in that train. Either the Commander Pike that doesn't wear a mask like all the rest of them do, or maybe, I don't know, one of the guard Pikes. Jennifer Beals, who's just one of the few people who's had a costume change. Yeah.
I want all 4 colors of the speeders. Yeah.
You know what? To be honest, as much as I didn't, as much as those characters didn't really fit for me, they didn't really feel Star Wars for me. They felt a little bit too cyberpunk. Um, I would buy one of those speeders just
Yeah, I
because
would too.
I'm a sucker for speeders. What can I say? And I would buy one that the mayor's major domo tried to get away in.
Oh yeah,
Like I thought that would be a cool custom to do.
That would be a good vehicle. Man, he is the most annoying character I've ever seen.
I think he's supposed to be.
I'm sure
Yeah, I
it's
think so.
designed that way, and I can't watch those episodes of those scenes without feeling like, oh my god, if I bought the action figure, would I feel remorse? I'm gonna buy the action figure either way, but would I feel remorse?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you can buy like 2 versions of Boba Fett now and pay the extra Boba Fett tax because he's a deluxe figure because he, comes with all his accessories, right?
They just announced a third one for Black Series today, like 2 hours ago.
Did they do a
I
deluxe
saw
on that one too?
Yep, for Tython when he first gets the armor and it's all still chipped up when he pulls it out of Mando's ship.
For some reason, I thought that was vintage. I don't know. I can't keep track because there's a couple where I would think it was one collection and it would actually turn out to be the opposite.
Mm.
Yeah,
Eh.
I think you're right. There's 3 Black Series and then only 2 Vintage Collection.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that sounds correct. Because I was looking at that today because I was like, didn't we just buy this? And it's like, oh no, it's Black Series.
But they all blend in. I think that therein lies the issue. When they first announced that second TVC one, I thought, is this like the non-deluxe version? It doesn't come with, the Stormtrooper helmets or the blast effects. And then I looked at it, and I'm like, no, that's a different figure.
Yeah, it's real subtle. Like the leg armor is different and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they just release a regular version on card. I'm not going to do this stupid thing where I have to be at my computer at a certain time and pre-order within 15 seconds and then pay $20 for a figure that should just be regular price. It's like it's another Boba Fett. It's like, get over it, Hasbro. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder for my money. I think why they have those 2 versions of Boba Fett is if you look at their trend. I mean, how many different versions of the Mando and Grogu have we had in multiple packaging? And that seems to be their MO for everything now is we're gonna come out with a mold and we're going to repackage it 3 times within a year and just do a different paint job or different packaging or different pack-in.
That being said, if they did a Mando versus the Mudhorn where he's all muddy and busted up, I'd still buy that.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, so would I.
Because
just give me a Mudhorn, I'll be happy.
Agreed.
But honestly, I've thought about. Unfortunately, you can't get them anymore. Really, those Jumanji rhinos.
Oh,
I thought about just taking one of those and just make the one horn bigger
2 or 3
and
years ago. Yeah.
put some hair on it, and there you go. There's your Mudhorn.
See, I always get into this kind of vibe where I'm like, I think they're gonna make that, and then I can't commit to making it, and I might even have some of the parts, but I just can't do it because what if they make it? They're gonna save me some time in the long run.
Oh, you have that problem. I have that problem too.
It's a bad problem to have.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes people will ask me, they're like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I could see it being on Hasbro's short list to make it." And
Exactly.
and let me tell you, the Tanaviv playset came out. I'll give you one guess how many Tanaviv hallway parts that I've sold since that came out. And it can be counted on 0 fingers.
Jesus.
See,
Yeah.
I think I had 8 sets of yours, and I'm like, well, now I can customize those because I always wanted to weather it and give it some detail. And I'm like, no, it's got to be pristine. So it actually opened up a good avenue for me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I've thought about doing the big speeder bike from Solo. Like
Right.
like that's when I actually even started doing some of the dimensions and stuff for it. But it wasn't on my short list because I'm like, well, that's a small vehicle. Like I could maybe see them do that. I mean, now I think unless it shows up again in new content, I don't think we'll ever get it. But the problem is too is they only did one version of the patrol trooper in 5 POA. Well, like he wouldn't even be able to fit on it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, like I kind of want to do it because it's a small speeder. I think it would be easy enough, but you'd have to put like a regular biker scout on it or something to make him fit.
And that's the same thing with the Mud Trooper. I was for certain, and it was long rumored that it was going to come out in TVC. So I tried to limit like buying those solo ones, the 5 POA ones, and it still isn't out. And I'm like, do I commit to that? Is it too late?
I wouldn't. Yeah, don't, because they're bringing out Dinjarin in that outfit as a SA figure, so there's no head swap.
Tanker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a smart move for them to do it because it's an army builder.
Yeah.
Give us one of those 4-packs, which I actually just got my Rebel Fleet Trooper pack yesterday.
Yeah. UPS has lost mine somewhere, so it might show up sometime this week.
Oh.
Yeah.
So actually, let's get into that and talk a little bit about what we've gotten recently. I got that, of course, and I'm waiting to pull the trigger on my pile of loot. I have like 4 or 5 figures sitting there right now, but I'm waiting for that vintage collection book to come in like any day now, and then I can ship it all at once.
Oh, dude, I heard that until the end of February on that because he was on they did a podcast, or they did Galactic Figures.
Mm-hmm.
And he said like the end of February isn't expecting it to come out.
Oh, well, we're planning on having him on too, but I want to have the book in hand first.
Right? Was it beginning of February? Yeah, it's sometime in February. He said, I'm pretty sure. So,
well, then I think I'm going to go on tomorrow and just ship them. Because I know what happens. Sometimes I hold off on those pile of loots, and then it just takes forever. What else have I got? I got something Halo.
Oh yeah,
man, those Jazzware figures.
Yeah.
Those Jazzware figures.
I got, and I think it might be a Walmart exclusive. It doesn't say it is, but it's the only place I've seen it.
The ammo rack?
Huh?
Like the weapons rack?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Walmart exclusive. That thing is nice.
I just bought that a couple weeks ago.
And it's pretty sturdy too, the weapons rack.
Yeah.
I got that, and I got the Gun Goose, the ATV.
Oh yeah, I got that too. Yep.
Yeah. I gotta give it to them. There's some good articulated figures. The vehicles, could the vehicles have a little bit more functionality? Yeah, but you can't really beat the price. Oh, I got the Manus too, the big walker.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah, I saw that. I got my Target had a sale near me, so I was like, oh sweet.
Yeah, so been picking up some of that stuff.
So I didn't buy the Mantis, but I bought the Halo. Well, of course it's Halo, but that grunt turret.
Oh, the bubble one?
Oh,
the bubble one. That's correct.
Yeah.
And my only complaint is, like, I put it together. It looks fantastic. It functions well. I can't take it apart. So as far as storage goes, I'm like, where am I going to put this? Because it was much bigger, like twice the size I expected.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, man, I put it together. Had I known that it wouldn't come apart easy, I would have probably left it in the box.
Yeah, well, I guess even the grunts are a fairly big figure, and if they make that vehicle to fit even the brutes and stuff like that, that ball turret would have to be pretty big.
Yep.
I don't think there's anywhere else you can go and get like a licensed decent figure with great paint apps for like $10.
I don't think Fortnites are like 18, 19 now, and Jazzwares is killing it with that line. I mean, somehow Masters of the Universe is still $14, $15 with their 5-inch figures for the Origins line, which I've been getting too.
And I when it first came out, I had bought like the Grunt Marine 2-packs, and I bought several of them. One of the Marines had terribly loose joints. Like, it was one of the worst figures I ever bought. And I messaged them, and they're like, send us a video and like send us as much information as you can. So I sent them a ton of information, sent them like a 60-second video just demonstrating like the loose joints. Not only did they send me another Marine figure, they sent me an additional one after that.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, man, you contact Hasbro and go, I got a problem, and they're like, yeah, you probably do.
Yeah, that's called good customer service. Is what that's called.
I can't say enough good stuff about that Jazzwares.
I did have to return the first ammo rack set I bought because the ankle joint on the Marine broke like right away, but that one I was able to just go to the store and pick up another one and exchange it.
I haven't had any problems with you guys. I've got a half dozen Marines. I finally found the sniper rifle Marine for the second wave because he's the one everyone wanted in my area, at least. But,
I need to get a plasma sword. None of the figures that I have, none of the Halo stuff came with a plasma sword.
I think that Elite that came with the Ghost had one.
Yeah.
And they're, you know what? I would buy the Ghost if I found it again, but I haven't seen one in a long time. I kind of wish I had picked one up, but at the time I was like, nah, I'll just pick up a Master Chief figure, and then I ended up getting the Warthog, and then I ended up getting an Elite.
I will say though, their oversaturation of the Master Chief is oddly almost respectable. How much they oversaturate the Master Chief in that line.
But quite honestly, by the same token, you go back to the stores a couple times, and they've actually whittled it down. I mean, so people are buying it. They're buying enough to empty the racks.
Yep. Because that first series, he came like 4 times. He came in single carded. He came with the Warthog. He came with the original Mongoose, not the Gun Goose, and then he came with that 3-pack or 2-pack.
That's what Hasbro was trying to do with Mando. Pack him in everything.
Yeah.
The thing is you can army build Master Chief, but it'd be kind of weird to. I mean, you can customize Mando, I guess, but So anyway, let's get into the interview a little bit, Zach. I know you from the forums on yakface.com, and I think Matt, you know him from somewhere else.
Rebel Scum. I hit you Yak Face. I just not as much as I do Rebel Scum.
That's what I troll all the forums. So,
and are you on Imperial Shipyards?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, I've been hanging out there more. Like, I used to do Yak Face, was about the only one I did. Like, I even have a registration at Rebel Scum, but I just never really posted there. And Yak Face, like, just lately, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of activity on the forums. And so Imperial Shipyards, once again, I've had a registration there since like 2016, I think, and I never posted anything. And I finally said, you know what? I should probably post there because I do customs and I do, a little bit of non-Star Wars stuff and dioramas, and they were a little bit more geared towards the whole customization scene, and they're not like super precious where it like has to be Star Wars. So I've been trying to post something new there like about once a week.
Well, and they're a fantastic forum to get like all your information from. I know on their Facebook page they'll share like the Halo stuff and, like you said, non-Star Wars stuff. So they're kind of catch-all, end-all.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, especially with the sci-fi stuff, because I occasionally like the Halo figures, and I got like a RoboCop figure, and I have other stuff that is kind of tangential to Star Wars, some other sci-fi properties. So yeah, we know you from there, and also you do a photo novel, which I want to talk about a little bit. But first question I have for you is, when did you start collecting?
So I am about to turn 31, and I've been collecting for about 25 years. So yeah, it all started, on a rainy night. My family had rented A New Hope, and then within a few days, I'm like, man, I really like this. Like, this is kind of my new thing. And I was, probably 5 or 6. And I know my first action figure was a Power of the Force 2 Luke in disguise from Shadows of the Empire.
Oh yeah, the Coruscant ground guard
Right.
in the red.
And that's where it all began. So I'm kind of waiting for that to show up, like we mentioned before. I'm waiting for some of the old things to become new again.
That's a pretty cool costume. I wouldn't mind having an updated figure of those guys.
Yep. Him, anything from Shadows of the Empire, an updated Dash Rendar or
Right.
Guri
Yes,
figure.
yes, definitely. Well, getting any Guri figure would be great. And I always thought it was kind of ridiculous that when we got that Comic 2 pack, they packed Zijor with that horrible Leia figure, and it's like no one was clamoring for that, for a Robo-size Leia. But we never got a Guri figure, even when Shadows of the Empire was in its prime. So yeah,
I wish they would bring those comic packs back. Man, that was like bread and butter for me as a kid.
It was a great way to get EU stuff.
Right.
Yeah, Matt and I did an episode that was just all about those comic packs and how great they were.
They were awesome. I love them.
And it really surprises me, since they've gotten the Marvel stuff, the publisher, that they've not combined with Hasbro to offer those again.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, because you could have done something where you had like 000 and what was it, BT?
Right.
BT or whatever. Like, you could have done that as a tube hack. You have Afra and Chrysanthemum. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could have gone with that, but I don't know, for whatever reason. I mean, it's always a mystery what's going through the minds of the people at Hasbro and what decisions they're making.
That's what, sometimes, like going back to the Mudhorn, I'm like, how have you not made that yet? How is that not on the top of the list? That it's an instant
Blurg.
seller.
Yeah.
Blurg yet?
Yeah. Like, you could
Blurg
easily
too.
do Blurg with Queel and Mando with a Mudhorn. Simple. And it's not like they haven't had that format just recently, like when they had the Vader with Probe Droid and they had the
Right.
Wampa with Luke. So it's not like they haven't done that beast formula like even just a few years ago. But be that as it may. So I'm going to share your collection here. Is this showing up?
Nice.
For you
Yeah.
This is it. This is the Wall of Doom, the Great Wall.
All those helmets up top. How many Stormtrooper helmets do you have?
Don't ask that. My girlfriend is aware of 4. I have, let me figure it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 Mandalorian helmets.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And they're
all the Black Series, or
so some of them, so I've been collecting for a long time. So some of them are actually Don Post resin casts.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
So they're fairly old, but made new again through, the glorious resin. I have some of the Black Series helmets. I have a custom sculpt. Man, what else is down there? I've got 2 of the better, I should say, like plastic rubies ones. But it's fairly eclectic as far as, quality goes.
Yeah, the Black Series ones, like all the Black Series helmets seem to be like made really well, but they're all a little bit on the small side.
Yes, they are.
Because I had the Boba Fett helmet and I ended up selling it off. I'm like, yeah, why do I have this? Because it wasn't to the point where like it would have been good for a costume because it was just too small. I had the Poe Dameron helmet for a while, and then I sold that off. And the whole reason I got it was originally I was going to do a Poe Dameron Resistance pilot, and I decided I'm like, you know what? I hardly wear my X-wing costume at all, so why would I just do another pilot like that? Where is this in your house? Like, do you have like a finished basement? Where you
So
have all
this is actually in a bedroom, and it is kind of like all encompassing. So this is right next to the like excuse me, the utility closet that has like 3 sides. So it's like a storage closet.
Okay.
And then what else is in here? There's a desk in here. There's a TV in here. It's kind of close quarters. I did have to move stuff to even get this shot.
Yeah.
So it was this process. I know I sent you these pictures kind of late. I'm like, okay, I'm going to send them a week in advance. And then I'm like, man, I got to move some stuff to one side of this room to get one shot. I'm moving to the other side of the room and get this other angle. So it was a process.
See, I can't do shelves like this because my wife and I have 2 cats, and the one is a climber, big time, and the other one is a thief. So, like, there'd be figures missing and chewed on. So everything I have, for the most part, has to be in a case or behind glass or something. Like, I've built most of the display stuff I have from scratch, like glass curios with sliding doors. I've gotten stuff that looks store bought, but it's all stuff that I've had to scratch build for one reason or another.
I think that's kind of the next natural step is finding, like glass or plexiglass or something to cover these because dust is just killer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's the nice thing is, like, I have 2 Detolfs, which a lot of collectors use. Those have enormous gaps in, and it's like not having a door on at all. You'll get just as much dust in there. But all the other stuff I've had where it has actual doors, I've never had to dust inside. It's kept it really good. I will tell you this: if you go with plastic of some sort, big sheets of plastic, even rather thin stuff, can almost be more expensive than glass. Like, especially if you get polycarbonate, which won't shatter the way acrylic will. Polycarbonate can be stupidly expensive, and it'll actually be cheaper to get glass.
Gotcha.
I mean, the downside, glass, you're generally not going to be cutting it yourself. But the way I had to do everything was, if I built a door, I would then have a measurement, take the door in to a glass cutting place here, make me a piece of glass, that fits this and everything. And I've had to refurbish a couple cabinets too from time to time. So do you have all your collection out, or do you have to rotate it?
So I do rotate it. If you see the closet pictures, most of the stuff is in like little plastic Rubbermaid containers.
Okay.
So there's a couple thousand loose figures at any given time that are never on display or have never been on display.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Is that 3 TIE fighters you have there? 1, 2, 3.
There's 3 TIE fighters in that display. There are another 2 TIE fighters in storage.
Are those all the same mold, or is it all different molds?
So those 2 that are pictured now are the Walmart exclusive ones that don't stay together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Do the wings just like they don't stay in?
There was a known issue. They either like put the bad springs in there, or there's like a clip that's molded wrong. There's something to do with it.
The internal clip that holds them in is made of a softer plastic, and it cannot take the spring's tension after about a week.
That's it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, because I heard a crash in mine about a week after I got mine, and I walked in there, and it's on. And I heard it. I actually took the entire cockpit apart, took a screwdriver, and pried it open. and found the pieces of the wing clips. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I still feel like we haven't gotten the perfect TIE fighter. Like I bought two of the solo ones because I thought that the proportions between the body and the wing was a little bit better. I bought two of those, take them out of the box, and the wings were so rubbery and distorted. It was when people were having the same problem with like the Poe Dameron X-wing and stuff, the original. And so I'm like, oh man, these things are all messed up. So I returned them, and I went and I got two of the vintage collection ones like this, and opened it up, put the wings on. I'm like, that just doesn't look right. That's way too big. But it has the detailed cockpit and everything like that. So I held on to one. I sold my other one to Matt because I hadn't even really taken them out of the box. So right now I only have one of those big wing TIE fighters, and it's still in the box and everything. Now what version of the X-wing is that?
So that's actually a custom X-wing. That is something that I probably did about 5 years ago when Rogue One came out. So that is a Power of the Force 2. That's the original like big X-wing mold that they came out with in like
That had
1996 or
that had
so.
the permanent Luke in with the electronics?
Yes. So it's an entire repaint. He has a DAC helmet on, so he kind of
Okay.
looks like, he would belong in like Blue Group. But yeah, that has been something I've been super proud of. And then Hasbro released, the actual Hasbro one. And I'm like, what did I get wrong and what did they get wrong? Because I used a lot of different reference pictures for that.
Yeah, I'm a little miffed that the only way you could get that Anton Merrick figure was packaged with the X-wing, because I have Luke's X-wing, the newest one. I have Big's X-wing, and I'm like, I don't even have room for another one, because quite frankly, I thought the Poe Dameron one was really well done, and there was a number of times when it started going on discount that I was really, really tempted to pick it up because it looked like it was very well done, and I'm like, I don't even have a place to put it. Where would I put it?
And that's my big issue is it's dust or it's space, and those are my two biggest enemies right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got that custom. I've got the Hasbro Blue Leader. I've got Red Leader. I've got two Luke ones because they redid that mold.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Biggs, and I've got Wedge, and I've got another one still in the box waiting to be like the Saw Gerrera Partisan repaint.
Oh yeah, where it's like mostly like a grayish color, I think.
Yeah, like that black and gray.
We only ever see it crashed in that one scene because I guess its scenes got cut. What R2 unit are you using for a Blue Leader there?
So that one still has the built-in astromech, so that's just a hand-painted R2 unit, like the R2D2 that's built in.
Okay, yeah. Now,
so go ahead.
Have you tried to find one for the actual Blue Leader one from Hasbro yet?
So I did. That was kind of like on my short list of things to do. I think I used just one of the regular. What were those called? They came in the cylinders.
I think Galaxy of Adventure.
Yes. So I had a bunch of R2D2s from that, and then I used one of the red Queen Amidala Royal ones. Just the dome from it. And then all I really had to do was paint the blue panels black.
Nice.
So it wasn't too much of an endeavor.
Yeah, now on this shelf here, it's kind of hard to tell, but the land speeder at the top, is that a custom painted one?
It is. So for the photo novel, and I try to tie like almost all my work into like I can use this twice for two different things. So for the photo novel, the chapter that I last worked on a couple years ago, it kind of called for 5 or 6 different speeders. So I ended up buying 5 or 6 different speeders and painting them up.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a vintage land speeder painted like dark blue and white.
Yeah, I just recently did I put up on Imperial Shipyards custom speeder that I made from my own Kenner one that I had from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it got really beat up. Like I'm sure a lot of kids' speeders, the shifter was broken off, and I think all the engines had broken off and were glued on at some point. The windshield was glued down, and so I was like, you know what? It just sits in a box. I don't have it displayed or anything. It's beat up, so I figured, you know what? I'm gonna give it a new life, and I'm gonna make a kick-ass newer speeder, and that's why Luke didn't get a lot of money for his because of that new XP38 that came out. I see you got a shelf for Halo there,
Right.
and looks like you're into Jurassic Park too.
Man, that's the bad thing about being like an eclectic collector is something comes out in like 3 3/4 and I'm like, oh, do I invest in that? And then a couple $100 later, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have probably invested in that.
Yeah.
I probably should have passed.
Well, I tell you, when things are scarce, oftentimes something else grabs your attention. I've had that happen a lot of times where when there wasn't a lot of Star Wars stuff going on, or they weren't putting out a lot of figures, that's when I'd be like, I don't really buy Marvel figures, but maybe I'll just pick up this one or something like that.
That's the excuse I make for myself too, where I'm like, I've spent, $30 on Star Wars in the last 2 months. I can stand to drop $100 on the Jurassic Park stuff. I'll kind of, confaggle my way into those numbers. I'm like, no, I can invest in this. It's fine.
I am planning on picking up, because I don't have any Jurassic Park stuff, but I am planning on picking up the Target T-Rex with the Jungle Explorer.
Yes, yes.
But what I'm doing is I'm trying to play the long game, and I want to see if it goes on discount. But I think Target tends to really be sticklers for keeping full price on their exclusive stuff. But the last time I went there, shortly after Christmas, and they had an entire end cap filled. And I'm like, boy, they got a lot left here. Fingers crossed, that they discounted at some point. I see you also have some Aliens stuff.
They're 3 3/4 Hiya Toys figures.
Yeah, I have some. I have actually one of the figures in my pile of loot I'm waiting on is the Alien Queen.
Oh yeah.
And I have one of the aliens from the first movie, which they have names for them. I forget what they called that one, like a stalker or something like that.
Yeah, they're like stalkers, spitters, warriors. There's a couple different ones out there.
Yeah, Warrior is from the second movie. I have one of those, and I really wish I had bought two of them because it's like online, once they sell out, good luck, you're not going to find them. and I have not found any more. They have, and the thing is they do like a ton of repaints and variations. I have two of the Predator figures from them. Now, I will say they definitely have quality control issues. Like
that was my next question: is how many of yours have broken?
Well, the aliens, I haven't even really taken them out of the box and played with them or anything. The Predators I opened and displayed. I got the Shaman, I guess. I got that figure, and I got the one from the first movie. I think they call it the Jungle Predator or something like that.
Right.
And opened that one, and I go to turn the ankle. Boom. Instant broken. So I message Big Bad Toy Store, and they go, well, don't worry about sending it to us. It's defective anyway. We'll send you a new one. I get the new one. That same ankle, I just look at it. Boom. Breaks off. I message them again, and I'm like, what? I'm like, this company seriously needs to do some quality control, and they're just like, we're just going to refund your money. And so I have 2 of that Predator with the same ankle broken. One of them is glued on now. Yeah, the aliens haven't really had too much issue. Now, one thing I did was one of the aliens came with an open egg and one came with a closed egg. And I was thinking, boy, they would be smart to come out with a multi-pack of eggs. And they eventually did, but not before I molded them and I cast a whole bunch for myself and painted them up. So, because I'm actually going to do a diorama where an alien nest has infiltrated like the Death Star or an Imperial facility of some point.
See, I did a photo novel. It's probably been 3 years ago. It was supposed to be a 2-part special, the Halloween special. And I did that first part and I never completed it, but that's effectively what had happened. They get on a Star Destroyer, a team is sent out, what's wrong? We lost communication. And then that last, few, maybe 10 frames, it's aliens. And I never finished it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I also have, and I saw you had on a different shelf, the power loader.
Yes, yeah.
I thought that was cool. I would have loved to have gotten the APC that they had, but like $300. I'm like, it has lights, but it's also $300.
See, I've had that in my cart like 6 or 7 times, and I just can't do it.
Yeah, that could buy a lot of figures, or it could buy like 5 Boba Fett's or something now.
Yeah,
because that APC is pretty cool. But when I was eyeballing it too, I'm like, I only have like 1 or 2 alien figures. I don't even intend to buy any Marine figures that would go in it.
What's I going to say? Those 3 Marine figures that I have, the joints don't stay in at all. So even getting like a couple shots of them, like you have to bend, you have to articulate everything, put it in place, and then just kind of set them in the grooves because those ball joints just won't stay in.
Yeah, it's a shame because the sculpts are really good. Like the Predator figures I have, the sculpts are amazing on it. I do think they made them too short because the Predator should be like, 7.5 feet tall or whatever. And really, like you put a Predator beside a Star Wars figure and you're like, that's a short Predator.
Right.
It really is. He's more like 6 feet tall, maybe.
Right, the junior version.
Yeah. Juvenile Predators. Now, you have a better picture, which I'll eventually get to. If I try to go to individual pictures, I have a problem. So I'm just scrolling through.
Gotcha.
The little diorama from Cloud City there in the middle. Did you make that?
So that comes from Cardboard Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And the one below it on that empty shelf, it actually comes from there too.
Okay, cool.
So that one below it on that mostly empty shelf is the Republic prison transport from Mando.
Wow, they made that already.
And that's what I say. It's I've never seen an individual that's like, you know what, you guys want this? I can make that.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I guess if you think about it, you have someone do the artwork. I mean, like I don't make my decals. I have a guy that does the artwork for my decals. And it's like really all you're talking about is doing that same kind of artwork, but having a machine or the ability to, cut those cardboard pieces. How sturdy are those? Like I know like that Jabba palace and that cantina they did back in, I think it was the Power of the Jedi at the time. Those were almost paper thin. How does this hold up?
So these are all on a heavier card stock, and I can't give too many kudos for this. It's one of the best pieces I've ever seen a fan make as far as that goes. That it takes up that entire shelf. I've never had a problem with moving it. Am I going to tear it up? It is a fantastic product.
He's making the outside of the Navarro Cantina right now. So he's gonna
Yes,
have
I
Oh,
that,
just saw that.
you know.
So
I
is
haven't
he making it to work with the playset they're coming out with, or
Yes,
oh, that's cool.
It'll slide on the back, and I think it has a slot in it to make so you can still flip the windows back and forth.
Oh, I see you have some vintage stuff here. Oh, you have that. I don't know what it's called. Is it like an outrigger or something in the middle
Oh,
there
yeah, what is that called?
from Droids?
Yes, it is from Droids. That's been like a holy grail piece that I'm like, man, I gotta have that. And they've been a couple $100 on eBay. And then it popped up probably about 8 months ago for like $60. And I'm like, oh, buy it now.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is it.
when you see a
Oh,
good deal on vintage, buy it now because they are not going down.
and you have the original skiff too.
So, the funny thing about that skiff is I didn't know it was the vintage one. So it's set in a random box, man, I bet for 10 years. And then last year, I'm like, I'm going to get that out and customize it.
Huh.
And my plan was to take one of the old, like the smaller scale Jabba sail barge cannons and put it in the middle of it.
Make
And then I
like
flipped it
a
over and I was
gunship.
like, yeah, I
That'd
was
be
like,
cool.
maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe this is the vintage one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like $700 or $800 now.
A blue snake. Is your loose? Are you complete on your loose run?
I'm
Vintage?
trying. I think I need 10 more.
Yeah, I saw the blue snaggletooth there.
I saw a
Caught
blue
my eye.
snag, imp dig there.
Right.
Now for you, because of your age, I mean, you didn't grow up with any of the vintage stuff like this, right? This is all just stuff you've had to collect.
That's like this is stuff that mostly came from an infantryman getting deployed about 20 years ago. So, or probably about 15 years ago, because I was probably about 15 when I got most of this stuff. I was at Toys R Us, and I think I was actually buying the Revenge of the Sith, the first big wing TIE fighter.
Hmm.
And the lady checking me out was like, "Oh, do you like Star Wars?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's like pretty much my thing." And she goes, "My husband's being deployed. He's in the infantry. We're selling our stuff."
Oh my gosh.
So that next week ish, we went to his house, and he had almost all this, like probably the first 96 figures. So it was almost, an instant collection for like a couple $100.
Oh
Damn.
my
Dude.
gosh. That's good.
Nice.
It is, yeah. You don't have Yak Face in there, right?
I don't. Yeah, not yet.
He's the only one that I'm missing, and I even have like a bunch of the variations. Like I have, a couple Luke variations. I have, Obi-Wan variation. I have a good portion of the variations, and I'm not even worried about being a completionist on them. But the problem with the Yak Face is, living in the era of eBay, it's not like you couldn't buy one in a heartbeat. You could just go on eBay right now and buy one. The problem is, I cannot bring myself to spend that much money on one figure. I just can't do it. So the way I justify it to myself is collecting isn't necessarily about ever finishing. It's about the journey. And if I ever finish the collection, I'll lose interest in it. Where at least I always say I can't get rid of these because I haven't yet completed it.
And
That's
I
not me.
think I've spaced mine out the same way that I'm like, I need 10. If I buy one every 6 months, I know I'll still be interested, at least 5 years later.
Yeah, for me, most of them I had, originally when they came out as a kid. And when the Power of the Force came out, I don't know why I wasn't really picking them up. I remember I had the Jabba's Dungeon, and you could get it two different ways with two different sets of figures. And the one set of figures was all, the regular release. And then the exclusive version had like EV-99, a Man-O-Man, and Barada. And I remember I had those Power of the Force figures. But a lot of them, like the Luke and the A-Wing pilot and Imperial Dignitary and stuff like that, I picked them up over the years. Like later on when I was in my teens and stuff, I'd go to a flea market and find them. This was, of course, before eBay. And the last two I got was Stormtrooper Luke, which I got him for like a really good price, and the pop-up lightsaber R2. I actually got him at Celebration. I bought him without the saber from one guy, and there was another guy that had the saber for him. So
yeah, buy things twice to make it complete, huh? I'm looking through this. Joe, have you ever thought about using any vintage figures in your photo novels, or just just use modern when you can?
I do try to stick to the modern ones, like just in case. I don't know. I'm always afraid there's going to be a better version come out.
well, I think too the posability. If you really want to get the dynamic poses for a photo novel,
This is true.
I have to.
Where do you usually go for your custom heads and stuff for your novel, though, Zach?
So they're really sourced from like multiple different places. Most of them, I'm like looking through those, like weird obscure lines, trying to find something that's going to work.
Gotcha. Do you ever hit like Angel Forge or one of these like websites that sell like resin cat? If Eric was selling head sculpts out of resin, that's like there's a place called Angel Forge that I go to for head sculpts. I don't do them a lot, but when I ever need one,
I've actually never done that, and that's on my list of things to start doing because I'd like to start repainting my own heads because I want to do that.
Yeah, that's what
doing eyes. Oh my gosh, when you're dealing with that little scale, the eyes are really rough.
You'll figure it out. You gotta take a toothpick and shave down the edge into a toothpick.
Yeah, even that though, it is really rough.
Stormtroopers, how beautiful that is.
I know. Are those a lot of the 5 POA ones where they're posed with the holding the gun that way?
So no. So there are a bunch of 5 POA ones that like the stiff Frankenstein arm ones. That shelf on the right, that top shelf with the stormtroopers, I think those are all 5 POA.
Okay, yeah, and the ones under it I can tell are the Rogue One because of the ankles.
Right.
And then the Legacy ones are the upper left.
So it's a weird combination. They're on the left. All of those are like at one point in time, I felt they were the cutting edge stormtrooper.
20 years ago when it came out, it was.
Yeah.
So I took Space Troopers, the A New Hope Space Trooper, and I transplanted the Rogue One 5 POA helmets onto those.
Yeah, they were the only ones that would fit.
Right. So I think I have like about 30 of those like that. So for like a brief moment, I'm like, man, I've got the most up-to-date Stormtrooper collection of anyone that I know. And then that Rogue One sculpt came out, and I'm like, well, I better buy those just in case too.
Yeah, they're nice. They're real nice.
They are nice. I got too many of them.
I think it's funny. You got a lot of Jurassic Park cheaps. You're like army building Jurassic Park cheaps.
So the customizer's mind, never stops. One of those is stock. And then the other 3 were customized into the other numbers that appear in the movie.
Huh.
And they're all just a little bit different from one another. So I went through, I customized the numbers on the sides and on the hood. But like one of them has a tire in the back and like some toolkits. So like that Muldoon Jeep, I had to buy like the Funko Pop version, cut those toolboxes off, transplant them on.
Oh, wow.
I think on all 4 of them, I went through and like redid the indicator lights. I took a toothpick similar to the eyes. I took a toothpick and painted in the details for like where the lock is and the handle.
Wow.
And I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I should just take medication instead of doing that. But
So I got to ask you because I'm seeing the prop guns and stuff. And I see you have Jane's from Firefly.
yes, yeah,
Did
the
you get
Lamar.
that one from me?
I didn't. So I think I actually have. You have a Mal's pistol, don't you?
I have Mal's and Jane's, and then I also have like the Jyn Erso one, which I see you have there too.
So I think I have your Mal's pistol, but that Jane pistol is actually a metal Denix replica.
Oh, well, that's what I modified to make
Perfect.
mine.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
I try to.
That metal one is heavy.
Yes, it is. I try to stick to metal replicas, but then that Mal's pistol, I'm like, it's always probably going to be poly or resin or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think I have your Mal's pistol.
yeah. Because I saw that. I make the Mando one too. But the Leia one, I've had some people ask me about the Leia one, and then I found that same plastic one that you have there, and I told someone, I'm like, I just bought this for like $10. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you to buy one from me, and I go and take the time to make one. You can just like paint the thing. It's properly scaled. Just
Which I think it was actually cast off a Master Replica's pistol.
the plastic toy, you mean?
The Rubies one is based on the mold for Master Replicas.
Really?
So that's why, yeah, people go, it's just a toy. It's just a $10 Rubies pistol. But I'm like, it's really good.
Oh, there's your sail barge.
Yeah, and then you can see in this picture all these little tubs and stuff. That's where pretty much almost all the collection lives. It's almost impossible to display it all.
Oh yeah, I hear you there.
Lego Mos Eisley, the Queen's ship. Oh.
Yeah, so those Legos, I know I sent you guys some pictures.
Yeah.
I had never been interested in Lego before. And then my girlfriend and I both had COVID. So we were down for like 21 days total. And I ended up buying the Mos Eisley Cantina. But then on Mercari, some dude, I don't even know who, had like 2,000 pieces of tan bricks.
Yeah.
So all those on that shelf are just like custom buildings.
Yeah, I just recently started selling off almost all my Legos. Like back in the day, growing up, it was Transformers, Star Wars, and Legos. That was like the holy trinity of toys. And I had a ton of Legos. And then after I got married, after a few years, and this had nothing to do with me actually being married and like my wife making me get rid of anything. Um, it was after I had gotten into starting my prop business, and so it kind of like was for my job. I'm still building, but I'm building with other stuff other than Lego bricks, and so I just never did anything. Like my hobby and my business were so intertwined that I'm like, I'm not really doing anything with these. So I started selling off a lot. And then the Star Wars stuff started getting better and better. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to hold on to my Star Wars stuff. And occasionally I would buy a new one. I would say, what the hell? I'm going to buy this Starfighter because it's really cool or whatever. And then just recently, over the last year, I got to the point where I said, you know what? I buy these sets, I put them together, and then I take them apart, put them in a Ziploc bag. They go in one of those little totes like you have. And then 10 years later, I'm lucky if I even took the set out and build it again because I have no place to. I'm out of space for the action figures. So if I build stuff out of Legos, it needs to be taken apart and put into storage right after I build it, pretty much. So I'm down to the point where I have the Ghostbusters Ectomobile, I have the Ghost and Phantom, and I have one of the Millennium Falcons. and that's it. That's all I have.
The real good thing about Lego is that it all increases in price.
Yeah, that is true. There's been some where really all I got for it was pretty much what I paid for it. But as long as I'm not taking a loss, I'm okay.
Right.
And yeah, some go up in value. Like those ultimate collector sets, there's so many of those. Like the big Falcon, the really big Falcon they did. That thing is gorgeous. The first really big Star Destroyer they did. Some of those are amazing. I think the Mos Eisley they recently came out with, that came out at the same time, like right after I'd gotten rid of a bunch of mine, and I'm like, I so wanna, and I'm like, no, don't do it.
So, yep, we had COVID for a long time, and I had, him hauled around, and I'm like, do I order it? I'm like, I could have it delivered. I've got time now because I'm out of work effectively, and I never ordered it. And then, like, our first day that we were able to do something, we went over to St. Louis because it's in driving distance, and we went to a Lego store, and we made like little custom figures of ourselves, my girlfriend and I.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I looked over, and they had it on the shelf, the Mos Eisley Cantina. And I'm like, do I grab it? Do I not? So we walked around the entire store, got in line to check out. We were checking out, and then I walked over and I grabbed it, and I go, add this to it. And it's like $350. And the cashier goes, okay. And I'm like, this is a major life decision. Like, I've spent, the last 45 minutes walking around in here going, do I buy that or not? And she's like, okay.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool set. But yeah, just I can't go down that rabbit hole again.
I always think I try not to purchase things twice. So that's a big reason why I don't necessarily collect, Black Series stuff. Because if I have Fennec Shand in 3 3/4, I don't probably need Fennec Shand in 6-inch.
Yeah,
So,
the 6-inch stuff is one of those things where I completely understand if someone has not been in collecting for a while and they're just getting into it and they're not intending on getting a bunch of vehicles, but they just want representations of the characters they like. I completely get it why people would gravitate towards Black Series because they're really good sculpts. I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. I once again, when it first came out, the regular figures they weren't really making a whole lot, and I picked up X-Wing Luke because I just thought it looked really, really good. And then I picked up the Han and Greedo. Really, the only reason I picked them up was I was doing the Cantina table and chairs scaled up for 6-inch figures, and I needed to actually have the figures to make sure they would work. That's actually the only reason I bought the Han and Greedo. But then I kind of limited myself to Troopers and the original Bounty Hunters. And then because we didn't have any realistic representations of the Rebel crew in 3 3/4, I ended up getting those. And then I ended up getting Tarkin because I'm like, well, I have the Troopers and he's an Imperial and he comes with the interrogator droid, and I'm a sucker for droids, so I'm like, yeah, I'll get him. And Thrawn, okay, because I'm a sucker for EU stuff. I'll get Thrawn too. So I have way more Black Series than I intended to, but I've been behaving myself very well. I almost picked up the Bo-Katan, and I'm like, no, she's coming out in vintage. I can hold off on that. So
that's what Matt might do the same thing where I kind of negotiate with myself where I'm like, if I buy this in this scale, do I buy it again in a different scale? What do I do here?
well, the one thing that And I have like this weird thing that I do in my head where I say, you know what? At some point, I'm going to be an old man and I'm not going to have room for this, or I'm going to have medical bills, or I got to pay for a nursing home or something like that. And at some point, I'm going to have to downscale. Even if it's, 20, 30, 40 years from now, I'm going to have to downscale. Would I prefer to get rid of the little figures and keep just a few Black Series figures? Like if I had to pick, I can only have 10 figures. Would I pick 10 of the small ones or 10 of the big ones? Well, I might pick 10 of the big ones. So that's always the problem I have in my head. The psychosis I go through is, okay, but 30, 40 years from now, what's going to be hard to get a hold of, and what would I keep? So it's a neurosis or something.
I always consider that too. At what moment do I stop collecting? There's got to be a certain moment where I hit capacity or something, something happens, like you said, a medical emergency. When do I stop?
It's tough because when you're a collector, like there's just like a certain mentality. Like I said, you always want to be on that journey. And I've collected a lot of different things over the years, whether it was comics, trading cards, action figures. And a lot of times, like with what I said, if I get Yak Face, even though those were my figures from when I was a kid, I know if I had that Yak Face and kind of put the cap on that collection, I would lose interest in it. And that's the way it's been with a lot of stuff. Like you have trading cards, you're like, I got the whole set. Well, now what do I do with it? I get rid of it and I go collect something else. So I think when you say, well, when do you stop collecting? If you really have that collector blood running through your veins, you will find something else to start collecting. It might be entirely different than what you're collecting now, but you will tend to find something else that then you focus that energy on.
Well, I know a few dudes, going back to the vintage stuff, they complete their loose run and then they go a second loose run with all the variants. Or they switch to carded figures because they know they probably won't complete that, in a timely fashion.
Yeah, or like with the Kenner stuff. Okay, I finished the Kenner run. Now I'm going to go on to droids.
Right.
Now I'm going to go on to Ewoks, or now I'm going to go on to the vehicles and play sets. The way I can kind of try to keep myself in check somewhat is I generally want the best version of that character. So, for example, if I have a Bespin Luke, and then they come out with a new Bespin Luke, a lot of times, unless I think I have customization options with that old one, I'll sell off the old one because I'm like, okay, well now I have a better version of it. So that's some way I can kind of keep stuff in check a little bit, at least with some of the core characters. But like for example, the best A New Hope Han I think they came out with was the original vintage collection subline of I forget what the collection. Matt, do you remember what the collection was? The OTC, I think. Matt, you there?
He has been quiet.
Yeah, I don't know. His mic's not muted. But yeah, it was the original trilogy collection.
Yeah, that vintage, the VOTC.
Right. And that Han, I still think is like the best just basic Han sculpt they ever did. And I have like 4 or 5 of that figure because I'm like, well, that's the best version. So if I want to put him in the Falcon, I have that version to go in the Falcon. If I want to put him in the Cantina, I have him for the Cantina.
But the weird thing is, so I guess growing up, I was always focused on army builders. So instead of buying multiple like Hans, I would have, like 15 stormtroopers. And then when I got into displays and having like these kind of simplistic dioramas, I realized, man, I only have one Han Solo. So I kind of had to adjust and go, I need to go back and purchase more mainline characters. And
Yeah, I
it
never
was a
was
weird
really.
transition.
What was that?
It was just an odd transition where like going through the loose figures, like, okay, I'm doing the cantina. Do I buy a second Han Solo to have him sitting in a booth? I probably ought to. So then I had to, spend about 8 months, and I bought like some Obi-Wans and some Lukes, Leias. And now I kind of take that into consideration when I purchase figures. Before I probably would have only purchased one Hoth Leia, but now I probably have 3 or 4 just in case I need it for a diorama down the line.
Yeah, that's what I have with some of my main characters, and the army building thing. I probably didn't really start army building anything except for maybe like 10 years ago. And as a kid, I didn't really do it. My Kenner figures, I had one stormtrooper, and for some reason I had 4 snow troopers. And it could have just been that people were getting them for me as gifts, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm going to get them a Star Wars figure," and I
Right.
just happened to have multiples of them. I think I might have had like 2 biker scouts or something like that. But so let me ask you about these astromechs here. Are you a completionist on astromechs?
Man, I hate to say yes because I try to avoid like non-canon astromechs. So if they don't show up in movies, I try to avoid them. But then I'll see a design and I'm like, man, I gotta buy that.
Yeah, I think
So
for me they need to offer something a little bit different now because there's so many, and it would be very easy to take a duplicate that I have and just do a different paint job on it and stuff. So I tend to like some of the Disney parks one where they have different domes on that we haven't gotten before.
and that's what I've tried to avoid customizing any, but then those Disney park ones come out and I'm like, do I consider like the park droids canon? I have to, again, I have to negotiate with myself. Do I include this in my collection? Do I use it as kind of like background fodder? Because most of these droids stem from that I had no intentions of collecting astromech specifically. But then starting the photo novel, I'm like, I need some background stuff. And a yellow, white, silver droid. Oh, that works perfect. So that, kind of draws me into, well, I need more than one.
Yeah, the one set I'm looking forward to, and I'm hoping that they put it up on Shop Disney or whatever, is that one where it's the Mandalorian pack and it has that ferry uh, gondola driver
Right.
astromech, because that was actually one of the next customs I was going to try to do. Because I thought, well, you could get the Build-A-Droid and just slap some protocol droid legs or something. Like, it would be a fairly easy custom to do if you weren't super precious about accuracy. Um, so I thought about trying to do that one with some spare Build-A-Droid parts, and then like about a week later, they previewed that set. I'm like, oh, that's great, but am I going to be able to find it? That's the question mark.
So when it first came out, I think I won one set off Mercari for like $60 shipped. And then about a week ago, I got another one off of eBay for another $60. And I think they retail for like $45.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably about the price.
So that's what that $15 surcharge. I mean, it is shipped, so I'm not paying shipping, I'm not paying tax. So I'm willing to kind of negotiate with myself again there that it's more than retail, but I'm also not buying that, $900 Disney experience to go along with it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, I wonder what happened with Matt. Matt, are you there and are you okay?
It's what, tap twice if you need help.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he ran to the bathroom. Yeah, this is cool. Boy, you got a bunch of snowspeeder pilots there.
And I always army build stuff, so a bunch of those are just that DAC sculpt with the the blue group helmets on. I do try to always match stuff to like how it looks on screen. So if you look at that scene, there's a bunch of pilots with just blue insignia on their helmets.
Yeah, well, they were from they were also in A New Hope.
Right. So that's the second reason. I try to always get multi-purpose out of my stuff. So to reuse them for a different display, maybe down the line. I also get a bunch of stuff off of Amazon Warehouse. So I think these were only like maybe $4 or $5 each.
Really? So, what's Amazon Warehouse?
So essentially, anything that you send back to Amazon that's damaged, or they damage it at the warehouse, it's deeply discounted.
Huh? Yeah, I never heard of it.
So, and you know what? I don't think there's like a button on Amazon's webpage. You have to Google Amazon Warehouse for it to show up. The oh man, what's that called? The Mandalorian's rifle, that Ambin rifle, the Nerf version.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 130 or like 125 retail, and I got mine for I think $80.
Oh wow.
And it was kind of like a dent and ding, like the box was a little bit misshapen, but the product itself was perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, and you could see someone gets that, for a Christmas gift, and they're like, well, I want to give this gift, in a beat up box, so they send it back, but they never opened it to see if it was okay. I know on these snowtrooper figures, there's one I have, and I think it might actually be my DAC figure I got in a lot that was loose, and he didn't have his helmet. I don't remember if it's him. I think it's my DAC figure, and I gave him one of those blue insignia helmets, but it's not the correct one for him, and that's always a problem when you're trying to find an accessory. Like you'll see, especially if it's like a Jedi that has a specific lightsaber, and that figure was only made once. So it's like, oh, this ultra rare figure, and you're trying to locate an accessory for it, which is missing.
See, that's how I felt about that Red Leader multi-pack figure. It came with the Rebel Transport and the Rebel Transport Trooper. And I'm like, I'm never going to find that for like, less than 150.
Well, and the problem you have too is, and I encountered this because I'm missing my staff for an anime, the one with the skulls on,
Right.
for my vintage Kenner one, not the Power of the Force 2 one. And I asked someone about it that had these different accessories, and I was like, I don't even care if they're the reproduction stuff. It would just be nice to have all the accessories. And he said, you're almost never going to find this staff without buying the figure, because even if someone just has the staff, they'll hold on to it until they get the figure and it increases the value. They're generally not going to sell you just that accessory.
Right.
So
that's completing that vintage line. We keep going back to that topic. There's like so many nuances where, do I get the figures? Do I, complete the set as far as accessories go? Do I get the variants? It is hard to do a vintage run.
Well, I tell you what, the accessories, I wouldn't even display mine with the accessories. I like having them, knowing they're complete and everyone has an accessory. The problem is they cannot hold their accessories worth shit. There's maybe 3 figures that can securely hold on to their blasters, and the rest, forget it. They can't hold them for anything. It's almost like they just sculpted it, and they're like, oh, they need a accessory. Okay, let's make this accessory. And and the guy making the accessories and the guy sculpting the figures just never worked together on making sure that the hand fit the weapon. They are horrible.
I think for my display, I started out trying to put them, like so carefully in each figure's hand. And then maybe like 15 figures in, I'm like, dude, they're going in a bag.
Oh yeah, and they can just be lost so easy, especially Leia's blaster. Like the one she has with the Endor poncho, that thing is tiny.
And I know a bunch of people that they have cabinets like mine, display cases. They're not glassed in, they're not secure at all. And they'll be like, something's missing. And, a couple months later, they're like, yeah, I found it on the other side of the room. A blaster, popped out of somebody's hand and it's across the room. My wife just swept in here. How did we miss that?
It was like a light breeze hit the figure. And there it goes. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. Just going through some of your there's some of your Halo stuff.
Yeah, they're very photogenic. That's what one thing that I do prefer. I think Matt mentioned this is like displayability. A 5 POA figure, it doesn't do much. So figures like those Jazzware Halo figures, or these Rogue One Stormtroopers, you can get a lot of character out of them.
Yeah, the one figure that really kind of works for being a brick is if you have a Royal Guard, because most of the time they just stood there. So it's like you can get a bunch of statues for some of those, and there might be a few where, like I think the Emperor, the best sculpt they did of him was a 5 POA version, because when you're dealing with something so small, there's no weight to it. So it's like the soft goods don't lay right. So I often think when soft goods are best utilized, a lot of times it's in conjunction with, the vinyl or the plastic.
Right. And that's one thing. I try to avoid soft goods. I know there's a lot of people that, operate only in soft goods, but I prefer those plastic molded sculpts. And there's, a bunch of people probably just logged out and went, no, that's terrible. But they can't reduce the size of a fabric robe enough to make it good. It's always like 3 times the size it needs to be.
Yeah, the problem is when you have to have a figure sit down and and they have some sort of plastic like skirt or something like that. Then it can be a little bit frustrating because you're like, well, I really need to pose this figure sitting down, and they just can't do it. The one I would say is a problem is Imperial officers, because the only one they ever made with a soft goods skirt was the Vintage Collection Tarkin, and it's great that he can sit, but it also doesn't look. It looks weird.
And I agree. The weird thing too is, they'll design something, and obviously they had that in mind. They're like, we need this figure to set. He's the only officer figure that can set, but then they never offer chairs.
Yeah, and I offer the I make the conference table and chairs for it. And granted, there was a scene where it was just Tarkin and Vader, and they're both standing. But if you want to recreate that scene with all those officers sitting, well, you can buy all the officer figures, but they're not going to sit.
Right.
And one of the things I was working on, actually, over a year ago, I started working on it, was I was going to try to cast legs that were sitting with the skirt and everything. So if someone wanted to boil and pop all their Imperial officer figures, they could glue on a set of permanently sitting legs.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, so I started work on that, but part of the problem is getting that in a mold to work properly. So that's going to be the challenge, is making that castable. Well, once like it might actually have to be the waist and the legs separately or something like that. But and it would be a pain too, because someone would have to paint the gray and hope it matches the gray of the officer outfit and stuff like that. But at least it's an option, which you don't really have an option to make them sit right now. So,
and that's the other thing is, if it weren't for like products like that you're making, you're filling that needs gap that Hasbro has had 50 years to do, and it's never going to happen on their end.
No, not really. I mean, thankfully, with like the Tanaviv playset and stuff like that, and the the Jabba playset and the Navarro, are they what people really want? Or are they truly quote unquote playsets that people want? I think they're a little bit shy of that, but by the same token, who's demanding this? Generally, I would say it's adults.
Right.
And as much as we look at something and say, oh, we'd love it to have the ultimate play value that we wanted as kids, for the most part, we're going to display figures in front of it. Like ultimately, that's what we're going to do. So it's kind of like this weird thing where it's like we grasp on to some of the nostalgia, and that's why we want, all this stuff to function and have electronics or lights or whatever. But in reality, is that how we're going to use them? Probably not. For example, I, like I said, when I was a kid, I was all about Transformers, and a number of years ago, I started collecting some of the high-end Transformers, the Masterpiece line, and I would also get probably 50% or more are like third-party Masterpiece scaled Transformers, and a lot of them would come with all sorts of accessories. So you would get this figure and it would be like, oh, on episode 25, this character had a big drill attachment on the front of his car mode, and they would include that, and I'd be like, I don't even remember that as a kid. but they would include it. Why? Because the people buying it are adults, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember back in that episode he had a drill on the front of the car, so they would include it as an accessory. And you'd be like, oh, this is why I'm paying a stupid amount of money for this figure, because it also has all these cool accessories. But how often am I going to pose it with that accessory on? Very likely never. So I have a little container holding a bunch of accessories that I'm never going to use. Because now, if I was a kid, would I use it? Yeah. I'd put that jetpack on him and the drill and, all the other stuff. And, but as an adult, we want this stuff that, by the same token, we're probably never going to utilize.
Well, that's the funny thing, is that some figures right now, Bib Fortuna comes to mind, that a bunch of people are like, I wish I had the staff based on that vintage staff, because it's the same thing that he uses in the Book of Boba Fett. And they're like, why didn't they include that? But then on the other end of that, the TVC Mythrol figure, it comes with the torch that he uses in like a split-second scene in Mandalorian season 2 to open a door.
Well, you do have to remember, though, the staff is a lot bigger, and if they included that, they would have to make Bib Fortuna a deluxe figure.
Oh, of course. Yeah, well, that's another
that'd be $20.
Yeah.
And they would say, "Oh, but look, the staff has like 5 paint apps on it. It's super detailed." Of course, it would be as flexible as a spaghetti noodle, but that drives me crazy when you get these like long rifles or gaffy sticks, and it's like no matter how you pose the figure, it's
Well, you can see that
horrible.
in this picture, the picture that's up right now. That staff is like super wonky.
That's part of what made me think of it. I was looking at, I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be straight.
It's it looks scarier and creepier at this weird, like hooked angle. But yeah, it's supposed to be straight.
Now, the backgrounds you have here, what are they from?
So, I try to steal from the best, and sometimes that comes from these most obscure places. These are the view screens from the Star Trek 2009 line.
Huh.
So, yeah, like as soon as I saw them, I'm like, man, those would make great office windows.
Yeah, if you could get like a printout of the Coruscant,
Right.
this Coruscant background and like insert that in there, I mean that would work for like the Jedi Temple. It would work for Palpatine's office.
Right. And that's what seeing, other lines, and I'm like, man, I could steal from that. That's something, that's a good display piece. I'll go ahead and buy it just in case, just in case I get the opportunity to put these figures together or I find that right background to put that together.
Yeah, that's
The good thing, those came with like a couple displays that like were standalone, kind of like the Hoth control console, the radar portion. So there's always like, I can double dip on that, and those could go in a rebel base or something.
Yeah, what I was thinking they kind of reminded me of. I mean, I know it was a piece of cardboard, but the design kind of reminded me a little bit of, the racetrack packaging. And I was thinking it almost looked like the background for the early bird kits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that is a funny thing. You mentioned that even these modern, quote unquote play sets that Hasbro's doing, they're really just backdrops.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not. They're kind of from a theater background. They're trying to do like a flat, essentially, where you just can put stuff in front of it. There's not much interaction. They're not, three-dimensional terribly. It's kind of just a backdrop.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like they call them play sets, but they're really not.
Right. They're good for photography. They're fantastic for that, but
yeah, so these are some customs. Now was this just supposed to be some street scene or?
yeah, so this is a backdrop from my photo novel.
Okay.
So, might as well put it on display. So I bet I have like 16 feet worth of different, like kind of street, portions. So, just so happen a couple of these fit on these shelves. But again, I'm trying to figure out, how can I get new figures out there, especially custom figures on display, and cycling them out is really the only way to do it.
Oh, so you got the that exclusive. What was that, Walmart?
Yeah, I just saw it's actually back in stock. It was back in stock just a couple hours ago. But,
Yeah, the spiders themselves would be kind of cool. It would be nice if they just had a pack where you could just buy a pack of spiders.
once I bought three figures of this, and now I've got 3 of those Mando figures, and I'm like, I don't need that.
Yeah, I kind of wish Hasbro would go back to doing some of those accessory packs. Like they could be really good. Like I could see someone buying 2 accessory packs of spiders.
And this that column, that ice column, actually comes from the deluxe Saga
Wampa, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
I was going to ask you because I was like, I don't remember it coming with that, and I thought, oh, Wampa, that's what it was.
Yeah, a couple people in Rebel Scum posted like they're using that, and I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm not doing anything with it, so it's like the perfect little display piece.
Yeah, I actually did not have any I had the original Kenner one, but I had never had any of the newer Wampas until they came out with that really nice articulated one that we
Right.
talked about earlier in the 5POA line. That was a really nice Wampa.
And it's always so funny because like the 5 points of articulation on those figures, it's killer. But then you get me a Wampa for $15 that's probably got 25 points of articulation.
Yeah, those 5POA figures that came in those, I didn't care. I got rid of them, and I didn't buy even when it was on like deep discount. I didn't buy the Rathtar because to me it's a creature that just does not feel like it belongs in Star Wars.
I agree. So I bought one for like $3 with the intentions of using the tentacles as my Sarlacc.
Oh, yeah, there
So
you go.
yeah, I got a double dip when I can. So I thought, man,
Is it that one? Those are Rathtar?
So that's actually at Disney. That's a little animatronic that they have installed at Disney.
Oh, okay. I just assumed this was one of your figures, and so I had it in this batch of photos.
Yeah, no, I wish. Yeah, that's a little bitty. All those little tentacles move, and his little mouth and like beak and stuff move about. It's man, that's one good animatronic.
And how big is that?
So the beak and stuff, I bet it's only probably 4 inches, but it's in like this tank that's probably 6 feet tall, and you can see kind of the cutout and the underbelly of that Sarlacc.
So kind of like a cross section type thing.
Right. Yeah, you can see, it's in this little pit and you can see its body.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's that. Is that from that droid set we were
That
just?
is. Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
One thing that they get wrong on all these R1 droids is that topmost like little wire, or it's like probably an antenna. It's at the very top of the crown.
Uh-huh.
That is actually a cable that's dropping that R1 droid down off the sandcrawler. And every single figure has it as an antenna.
You mean the center of the head? The very
Yeah, at the
center?
very top, that very top like antenna. So
Oh,
not the one facing us, but that very top thing. It's actually not a part of that droid.
that's funny. But you
Yeah,
know
some of
what?
these it's weird.
Only us extreme nerds would notice that because yeah, I messaged Matt on his phone and I haven't heard back. So hope
I'm here, dude.
everything's okay.
My mic was really having issues.
Oh, I was gonna say because it wasn't showing you were muted. When did you just get in? Like just now, or were you just not wanting to interrupt or anything?
I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
Oh, okay.
Actually, clanging thing, I would have been a noisy mess.
That's what I'm like, man. I'm like, I hope he's okay. If somebody died on my first podcast.
Yeah, that'd be pretty weird. We're here like talking about action figures and our friend's dead. That'd be really, really strange. It would put a very dark cloud over every future show I did. I'd be like, I'm your host, Eric, and with me, my co-host is not here because he's dead. It'd be very, very strange.
Yeah, when I was fighting cords and stuff because I had like the Blue Yeti up because the headset mic was going bad.
See, if you had that Dell computer, that wouldn't happen to you.
All right, I'm well, good thing you're back. How long were you messing around with that?
I was listening to you guys the whole time. I just I couldn't speak. That was the issue.
Oh, okay. So I want to. hold on, because having an issue here. So I want to talk a little bit about your Era of Darkness photo novel.
Yes.
So you said you've been working on this for quite a while, you said.
So I bet I started in 2015, 2016 maybe. But, a lot of people go, do you make it up as you go? And I've actually, from the very beginning, that very first chapter, I've had it outlined for 50 chapters total. So there is a distinct beginning, a middle, and an end to this story.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're on chapter 32-ish.
Something like that. I'm trying to think of the last chapter was, because they came out of their snowtrooper outfit. Now they're using those regular outfits they found.
Right. Yeah. Say they're using clone trooper armor, like excess, remnant armor.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think we're in volume 3, chapter 2.
Okay, how did you have a specific number per volume, or did you just decide to cut it off on each one?
So I do 10 chapters per volume.
Okay, so that's 32. Gotcha. Couldn't remember off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
so we're shooting for 50 chapters total.
Loved it, and I remember when you started that and you put that dark filter on that very first, because remember the prologue was not in the actual set,
Right?
Yeah, because
It was the first because I actually went back and redid that prologue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was the this is terrible. The original one, it was in front of some pots and pans. And then I'm like,
Here
no,
we go.
I'm like, let's do it for real, so I went back and started making sets and stuff.
So now what gave you the idea to do a photo novel? Because for example, years ago, me and a couple friends were working on a Star Wars fan film, and there would be people that would also do fan fiction, obviously, where it's all written, and then photo novels are something I've only really been aware of for maybe the past 5 years that people were doing this type of thing. So what made you decide to go in this direction? Was it more because you had an idea for a story and this was the best way to present the story, or was it, hey, I have all these action figures, wouldn't it be cool to make a story? Like how'd it come about? Which direction?
So I think it's a combination of most of those things. So I've always had a background in theater and costumes and makeup and acting, but you're never going to get 100 people together with stormtrooper costumes. So it's much easier to direct action figures than it is people. So that, and then also kind of knowing I have a story that I know I want to tell. And I think also when those Disney films came out, when the sequels were announced, something in me goes, you should tell this story before they do. So knowing, going in The Force Awakens, knowing it's not about, any characters that I'm, involved with, obviously, but then seeing their story capabilities and then turning around and going, I think I can do this a little bit better. And not to be conceited about that, but I do think, a complex story that kind of, goes back to those serials that, inspired Lucas in the first place. It's just something I've always been interested in doing. And this is probably the best format as far as scale, because then I can build these large scale sets. I have complete control over my actors.
Yeah, none of them give you crap like, oh, I only eat brown M&Ms or something like
Right,
that.
exactly. So, yeah, I think it's a combination of things that I can kind of justify myself and also buying this much stuff because a couple chapters from now, I need 16 snowtroopers.
Well, I think one thing that is nice too, getting back to the idea of having to store a lot of a collection, is it gives you a reason to get it out, and you feel like you don't just have stuff, like you've actually used it somehow. Even if it was just doing toy photography of like, just take a photo of one thing from different angles, and you go, okay, well, even if I got rid of it, I've made it into a piece of artwork, even if it's just, photoshopping that individual photo or something. It sometimes, I know for me, I get a little down and I'm like, well, I have all these figures and I don't get them out. I don't do anything with them, unfortunately. Like, we don't play with them like little kids. I mean, at least I don't. But, it would be nice to be able to somehow interact with your collection and be able to, change the display around or get these really cool pictures. This one in particular, I think, looks really cool.
Thank you. I think the escapism, it's interactive. I think that's the very first thing that comes to mind, is they're not just sitting on shelves. I'm posing them, and then I'm not just stepping away and going, oh yeah, I've done it. I take a picture, and then the next shot needs to show some motion. It needs to show emotion in my viewer that something is taking place. There is motion in these, still frames.
Well, they almost remind me a little bit of storyboards, and I had actually thought about doing something similar because I'm a writer for a comic. I have a comic I co-created, and I don't do the art for it. Me and my co-writer, neither one of us does the artwork for it. So, but coming up with page count when you're talking about something like comics, you could write a novel that is 200 pages long or write a novel that's 500 pages long, and it doesn't really cost you more per page. Physically it does, but it's just more of your time writing. When you're paying an artist, $150 or more a page, every page matters, and it has to convey the story properly, and not have more pages just for the sake of pages, unless you're independently wealthy. So what I had thought about doing was using action figures and stuff as basically a storyboard. So I can say, okay, well, this frame I want to have from this angle, and I take a photo of an action figure or a couple action figures and say, this, obviously you're not drawing the action figures, but you give it to the artist and say, that's exactly what I want the quote unquote camera to see.
Right. That's a fantastic idea.
I
The same kind of principle happens with these, is that I'll actually write out a shot list. So I'll say, like, for this shot, Colonel Elliot in middle, stormtroopers flanked. So going into my photo novel, I've already written the copy. I've already written, all the text. And then I'll just read these descriptions that I wrote myself. And then I'll know which thing I need to photograph next. So they are effectively, kind of storyboarded storyboards.
Mm.
Yeah, really interesting.
I think Robert Rodriguez did that, didn't he, for the second season of Mandalorian? He used VC-140 stormtroopers.
Yes, yeah,
for the Tython fight. Yeah, he actually behind the scenes showed that.
And that's what, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of a comic book, but it's also kind of a film, because I want to show that motion in these shots.
Are you using a dark filter on this with these shots?
So most of them are dark filtered, yeah.
Okay, because it looks awesome. I just wanted to.
Yeah, someone had made the comment, Era of Darkness, you can lighten these up.
but then it would be era of lightness.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have the same like ring to it.
So what kind of camera do you use for this?
So all of my pictures, so even the ones that like we've already seen, those close-up pictures, drum roll, it is an iPhone 6.
Nice.
That's what I have. And yeah, it's amazing too, because my wife and I, we had bought a now this was a number of years ago. This was probably like 5 or 6 years ago now. We had dropped over $300 to get a really nice digital camera. I think I maybe used it twice, and it was like at that point, if I just needed a photo spur of the moment, it was far quicker to just grab my phone off my belt and take a picture than it was with that. And then with every iPhone that came out, it was greater and greater and greater camera quality, to the point where it was like, well, I always have my phone on me. I'm not going to carry a digital camera with me everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it probably does still have more settings. As far as the megapixels, I wouldn't be surprised if my iPhone 6 isn't greater than that camera is, though.
Well, and that's what I always kind of like, self-debate. Do I upgrade my phone? Because what if like, I can't get it to focus on, like the micro. What if it's more like, like portrait shots or something? Because this iPhone 6, takes, I think, very good pictures real close.
Well, the one thing I've noticed is you have to zoom in, because if you move the camera too close, then it starts fisheyeing.
Right.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
snow. Was your snow covering, was that like a blanket, or what was that you were using for like?
So like during Christmas time, Walmart has those little villages.
Yeah.
It is one of those snow village like blankets that you put on for display and put your little village on top of.
Nice.
And it has also evolved like over time, where I didn't have a light kit. I just had a couple of like little flashlights. So I would set those up, and I would, use nubs, like paper diorama things, like all these backgrounds.
yeah, I can tell that's what these are here.
But then like slowly over time, like those GTP backgrounds.
Oh yeah.
I bought those. I bought a light kit. So it kind of evolved with me.
I was going to ask you, have you thought about like investing in a 3D printer to make some set pieces with?
That's always on my list of things that I think I should do. But if I do it, I know I'm gonna, I'm gonna run out of space.
Yeah, true. I would love to get one. I'm hardcore thinking about getting one just for like making like glasses, or maybe like small things to sell the scale with,
right?
Like plates and dishes or something.
I know you can get some plates and dishes. You actually got some from me, I think.
I know I bought some for you. That's kind of the reason I was saying that, because I remember you making them. I was thinking of you own like 3 of them, don't you, Eric?
What,
printers? Yeah.
No, I just have 2, and they're totally different types. Now, I know one thing I have a heck of a time for is properly lighting stuff. And the other day I just set up I had bought years ago a green screen kit, and I mean, it came with like 3 lights, 2 umbrellas. It has a green screen cloth big enough that you could pretty much take a family portrait in front of it. And so I set it up the other day, and I'm still getting shadow on stuff, even with 3 lights. It's like I don't know what it is. There's a reason why there's a whole department that takes care of that stuff for movies, because I have a heck of a time trying to get good lighting.
So so my theater group at the college that I work for, last year we shot a film, and it's only supposed to be about a 15-minute film. But man, I don't have any experience in lighting, and that was kind of eye-opening where I'm like, oh my God, how do they do it?
Well, I know the key is that generally to get rid of shadows, you have to have 3 lights. But still, it's like I'm still having issues trying to do it. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm wondering if the kit I have, because it is intended for really big subjects, that I really need to get a light box where I can put lights right up against the side and have it diffused. I think that's what I really have to do. It wouldn't work for something like you're doing necessarily, where you have like a bigger quote unquote set.
Right.
But for product photography, I think I really just have to break down and get one, because every time I want to get a photo of something, it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit this on my chair and I'm gonna move it over here. Nope, there's a light shining directly on it. Nope, no, over here you're gonna see a shadow of me holding my phone in front of it. Like, it's always miserable trying to get even a half-ass photo.
Zach,
Now,
what?
is this one of
Okay.
my kits here with the?
So the console is, but the doorways are actually just borrowed from the Power of the Force 2 playset.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have yours out yet when this was made.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you've got a list, or you have a like, I don't know. I bet there's probably $1,200 worth of stuff that I, would love to buy.
Let me tell you. Next week I'm gonna be dropping like 6 or 7 new items.
That's what every time you post on Yak Face and you're like, look at this new thing, and I'm like, dude, just stop making stuff so I can catch up on my list.
And not only that, I have my 2 largest vehicles that are being worked on.
That's speeder that you're making, and
Kyle Katarn's ship, and then I have another one which I
Oh
wow, the
man.
moldy crow. You're making a moldy crow.
was seating for
Ah,
2 and cargo space.
Oh my god.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the Moldy Crow though. It's the Crusty Raven.
Oh, is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, but someone had a good name for it. The Dirty Birdie.
There you go.
I'm tempted to go with that, man, because the Dirty Birdie.
Now, is that 2 of them back to back, Jodo? Where you got 2 of them like lined up
That looks
against
like
that mirror?
Yeah, see, I think that's probably 3 of them.
I was gonna
Wow.
say that's. Yeah, that's something I thought about doing is the back corridor. Like I had just done the walls and doors, and then I did the stairway. I'm thinking about maybe doing that back section.
Jodo, I was going to ask you, like, because do you ever follow other photo novelists? Like, I follow, I can't remember if it's Chewy or who it is over at Yak Face that does the Enloe trials, the Enloe saga.
So him and Darth Vlad on Yak Face,
Hmm.
we 3 text probably every other day.
Hmm.
So
really?
yeah, we pretty much share all the news that comes out. We send like memes to each other, but we all kind of personally know each other.
Nice.
So yeah, kind of piggyback on, this is something I just made. Take a look at it. So we'll kind of show off to each other. And then in the past, sending stuff and, workshopping it a little bit too.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
that's
you
cool.
helping out, like problem solve stuff of things you're trying to do.
Right.
Like those
And,
LED lights going down through that shot right there is awesome. Is that like reflections, or do you actually set those
That
lights
looks
on
like
the walls?
bare LEDs.
so yeah, those are little bitty LED lights.
Wow.
And I try to progress. I don't want to ever stagnate as far as like skill goes. And not that I'm skilled anyway, but that was kind of the next introduction where I thought I want depth. So I built a bunch of different walls for the outside scenes. And then for my indoor scenes, I'm like, I really need to light this because if you're inside of a hangar, it's probably going to be light.
Yeah, I thought about it was kind of disappointing that the fan film that I was doing like just never finished, and a lot of it was because we couldn't get the right cast for everything, and we couldn't get some key locations we really needed. And so it was like we had actually filmed some, and that's how I got a lot of my knowledge of prop making and costume making. It was because I had to learn it to work to get to progress that film. And so we had filmed uh, a few scenes, but we didn't get beyond that. And it was always a regret that I never got to finish it. And I thought about writing it as like fan fiction, and then I'm like, yeah, but people write fan fiction, like you don't get the visuals and everything, and you're not making money at it. And it crossed my mind that this would maybe be a good way to go, is do a photo novel.
And it's kind of the best of both worlds for, as far as like fan fiction, because I'm writing it, but then I'm also shooting it, I'm editing it. It really is kind of, you have to wear many hats to finish one or even just a chapter. But it is similar to that, there's got to be some sort of movement. I can feel the motion in this shot where, he's probably ducking back a little bit.
Are these? What are you using for walls right here? Is this like just
Looks
sticking
like
like a
styrofoam
wall putty on styrofoam or something?
So a bunch of these are like random boxes that I had, and then using wall putty, and then going over like with 4 or 5 layers of paint, like
I
different
got
colors, and if they chip away kind of naturally.
Nice. Yeah, wall putty, like stucco, whatever it is a great little way to get texture for that small scale too. I love it.
Right. And that's one of your doors, Eric, back there.
Yeah, I recognized it.
Now, are you going to be upgrading the Stormtroopers to the new VC-140 mold now that it's out?
So I don't even know how many I have. I plan, there is a chapter that should be upcoming, if I can ever work on this, that's going to need probably 70 to 80 stormtroopers. And I know I have about 70 to 80 stormtroopers waiting.
Nice.
Wow. Wow. So what's this guy from? His head sculpt doesn't look familiar.
That's from Force Awakens.
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was, but I didn't remember that figure.
The real treat is the yellow droid in the back that came from the Episode 1 accessory pack.
Yeah,
the scrubber droid. I got
Yeah.
two of them. Yeah, and you know what? You know what's funny? If you take a close look at it, what I think it's made from is these totes that were made back during that time called action packers. And he just took the lid off, flipped it upside down, and added a bunch of stuff to it.
Making a like 1/1 scale gonk droid from the Rubbermaid containers is on my list of things to do.
I have one. I got some that were molded in black, and they look a little bit more industrial. I think I got them from like Walmart or Home Depot or something like that. They're black with a yellow lid. They work really good because you don't have to, it's not like baby powder blue or something like that. It's like all you gotta do is weather it, and that's what mine's made from. Yeah, like I said, droids, they're kind of my thing. I have a full size remote control R2, and then I have a steampunk R2. I have an interrogator droid. I have 2 mouse droids. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely, and I want to build Chopper at some point too.
And that's the bad thing is, I collect the 3 3/4, but then I also do life-size props. I do costumes. So it's kind of, from this perspective, a set design where I have to build the walls and I have to, place everything. But then in these 1/1 scale props, I'm like, man, there's a, little tiny scratch that I want to replicate. and it's these fine details. So it's kind of knowing the best of both worlds, or probably the worst of both worlds.
Let me tell you when you know it's bad. I have a full size eWeb.
Oh, that's super. You see, now you need the carrying case for it.
I actually have custom made crates with the biggest one on rollers because it's so big.
That is
So
fantastic.
so the tripod and Canon disassemble and go in that, and then I have another crate that just holds like the generator box part.
Go ahead.
Yeah, these guys, man, they need to come out with them again. Put them in an army builder pack. They go for stupid money anymore.
Yeah, I see. You got there's the GTP walls in the background of this shot.
Right. Yeah. So that's when they were probably introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah. It surprises me that they haven't re-released this like in the last 6 years.
They said that they don't have access to a lot of those old legacy molds anymore because they're with factories that aren't approved for release anymore. Because GTP kind of put the internal workings of how when you become a licensor around there, and they said like once you get the license, you have to only use factories that Disney approves of in China.
Right.
And so those old factories, if they want to go back and use one of those old molds, they have to go to that factory and tell them we want to use that mold, and we'll have to have it shipped to one of our factories to use it with. That's why some repacks can come a lot easier than others because only some of their factories I think were able to use. That's why we got so many repacks quick on like Indoor Han recently or whatever.
Right.
So something like that. I can't remember all the details, but
yeah. I assume that's how Tungori operates too, is he has access to those, quote unquote bad factories that are still willing to produce.
The thing you have to figure though is that okay, so they don't have the molds, but you would think they would still have the models themselves. And so they would just be able to say, just make a new mold of this model. I mean,
right.
granted,
Yeah, they don't retain the masters apparently. That's bizarre.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, a lot of the prototyping, it's all done on computer, so they have the files. You would think, but something like this, I mean, could make a good, one of those nice 4-figure packs. Like throw in, 3. Or here's what you do: you make it an Imperial officer in the black or the green, 2 scanning crew techs, along with a scanning crew crate. There you go.
Right.
That'd be the equivalent of 4-pack. And you pack it just like those Rebel Fleet troopers where it doesn't matter. They're just tossed in little baggies or whatever. Because I need some more of these guys for my Star Destroyer bridge.
Yeah. Which I'm going to order the other half from you eventually. Is that available yet, by the way?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, I gotta order the first half.
It is definitely better if you get both together, because like some of the ways you might want to attach stuff and finish stuff up, I would say it would be easier to do it that way. But
okay, so this is after they run into Excel. Dude, I was so envious of you. Because these are the this is that when they did that Rogue One. These are the Rogue One 5POA heads on those space trooper bodies.
Right. Oh, really?
Yeah, because you can see the VC-140 head. The eyes are just a shade wider and bigger on the VC-140 head, but the old Rogue One head was just perfect with the way its proportions was.
Now, those speeders, are they the Force Awakens?
They are. Yeah, they are.
Okay. It was kind of hard to tell because you couldn't really see the front on some of them.
And that's what, trying to kind of hide that, where I don't want it to be too apparent that we're, using the same stuff from sequel era stuff. There's that custom speeder from that shelf.
That's cool. Man, are they those K rails that I make?
They are. Yeah, they absolutely are.
one of the greatest props is you just go to eBay and find like a bunch of busted speeders from like the prequel and Pilot Force 2 era for like $12 a pop or $10 a pop. You just buy like 2 or 3 of them.
And that's what I did for most of these. It was, kind of like swapping parts and figuring out, how can I hide that battle damage that, obviously a cat chewed on this.
Now,
Leave it on, man.
Now this one here in the foreground has like interior stuff. What speeder is that one?
That is that kind of teal looking Naboo one.
The flash.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the flash speeder. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't remember it having the that curved that kind of Luke land speeder dome on it, windshield.
Yeah, you got it.
For some reason, I thought it was shaped differently. Yeah, there you can tell a little bit better.
There you go. Look at all those boxes with all that. What is that stuff? What is wall putty called? Stucco? What is it?
Joint compound. That's
I know it. Yeah, joint. There's like a here, and it's in the Midwest. You give it some kind of name like that's silly putty. What the heck is it?
Yeah, silly putty did not work.
or what are you thinking? Milliput or something like that?
No, it's for your walls when you actually bust a hole in the drywall. Spackle.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, there's that Rebels ATDP.
Yep.
I think those increased in price kind of like steadily.
A lot, yes.
So I have 4 of them, and my intention was to battle damage one of them at least, and then, looking at those secondary prices, I'm like, do I do that?
Man, I like the design. I wish they had something like that, but with real short legs. There was one of the reference books, like years ago, probably like late 90s. They had like a couple different those tech manuals where it would be like all the different vehicles from the EU, and there was some sort of walker, like a one-man walker that was kind of short.
Yeah.
And
it's Dark Force Rising.
Yep. Yeah, if they I don't remember what it was from, but if they had something like that cockpit but with short little legs, I think that would be pretty cool. It would be kind of like
I always think about that because it was in the Nintendo 64 Rogue Squadron game.
Yeah.
That's where I always remember it from, that short walker.
No, these are actually from like the Rebels DP we're looking at is actually from the vintage era as well. Well, these were in the old Marvel books.
Oh yeah, that is correct. Yeah, that's absolutely right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, the Vanderhelm mission, a few others.
Yeah, they would make like a great, almost like a little mini rig type vehicle.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, they would never do them, especially if it doesn't appear in some sort of TV show.
Well, they don't do the stuff that shows up on screen anyway.
Yeah, no, man.
Yeah. You're kidding.
We have 0 Rebels in TVC. We have. It's rough. I always know your. You said you just use Photoshop for the blaster fire, by the way.
It was actually, so that was one of the things that Yak Chewy, he had recommended. It is like a 10-year-old program that it makes it super easy to do. I can't remember the title of it offhand. But it's kind of like a cheap version of Photoshop.
Was it GIMP?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, it was I bought it off of Amazon. It came on CD.
Oh wow!
So it's what it was like. I had to turn my dial-up network up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I know that would be something I would have a problem with because I don't know anything. Like maybe I can do MS Paint, paint.net. Like that's about as advanced as I can get. I tried Photoshop once and I'm like, how do I grab like just a marker and draw? And it's like there's too many tools. Yeah, sometimes there's just like way too many functions. And it's like my brain locks up, and I'm like, just tell me where the tool is. I need to know how to do that one thing.
So that's what. So I used to work at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, SIUE, and one semester, one of the professors was out. She was on leave, and they came to me and said, "Do you want to teach the Photoshop class?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, you're the only person that knows it."
Huh.
And I said, "Oh, I really don't want to." And then they kind of pulled my arm and twisted it, and they said, "We'll only make you teach a couple classes that semester." So I ended up teaching the Photoshop class, but God, Photoshop is hard.
Yeah.
It is not user friendly. It's not fun.
Well, my problem that I always say I find with computer programs is there doesn't seem to be a middle ground a lot of times. You have the program that you say, for what I need to do, I need this program and maybe two more functions, and it would do everything that personally I need to do. But then the next step up is where you go, I don't have time to take 4 years to learn how to do this that can do everything. And there never seems to be like that middle ground a lot of times.
Yeah, I agree. The some of the like digital editing, so like in pictures like this, some of the very like deep background stuff, I blur, or on some of them I paint in like a sky and stuff.
Mm.
The that well, I can't think of the program's name, but that program doesn't allow for it. So
Oh.
I also have a subscription to PicMonkey, which is a website, and it does allow for it. So I can paint other stuff in there.
Huh.
But then, again, I've spent $50 on this CD. I'm spending $120 or whatever it is, annually to have that subscription. So the cost adds up real quick. And of course, buying the 700 stormtroopers, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
who's counting?
Yeah. Shit. I know and this is just me, I was up to, I think, 200 and some.
Let me do some math here real quick. I know there's 77 on each one of those shelves in the closet. There's 3 shelves, so that's 231. And then I think there's probably another 40 to 50 in one of the containers. So I'm close to 300.
Oh my gosh.
You're gonna start rivaling Darth Anton.
Oh man.
Have you seen some of his videos and his stop motions? I love it.
Yeah, that's what I know. I know a couple people that are like super army builders, and I'm like, how do you afford that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So one good thing, Five Below had those 5 POA sets that came with Baze Malbus.
Oh yeah.
So I spent one afternoon and I drove to like 20 different Five Belows, and each one of them had like 5 or 6. So that's how I amassed so many like the 5 POA heads.
And it came with the actual orange pauldron.
Right. So, and the bad thing is, somewhere in storage, I literally have like 85 Baze Malbus figures. And I can't find anyone that goes, yes, I'll take them all.
You know what you do? You just come up with a storyline in Eras of Darkness where they clone Baze Malbus, and there's like a whole army of Baze Malbuses with big ass guns mowing down stormtroopers. There you go. That one's free of charge.
Yeah, that's what. You know what? That's the next Halloween special. It can be a horror movie. I know there's something in there that, oh my god, you come around the corner and there's 85 of them.
I was going to ask you, so your main character, the stormtrooper leader, the squad leader, Kane. Now, I've noticed you haven't shown their faces at all. Do you ever plan to do that, or is that just going to be like ambiguous throughout the entire story?
So that's probably the biggest feedback that I've gotten is you never show his face. Some of the characters that are in that squad, Able Squad, as they kind of shed their Imperial personality, they shed that costume. So Kalen is one of the characters. He's in complete like civvies. He's in his regular clothing. There's another stormtrooper that has like regular clothing for his forearms and his legs. So I'm trying to kind of progress that. Kane is holding on. So he doesn't want to strip himself of that, imperialness. He's still his helmet is his face. And that's the biggest feedback that I've gotten is show his damn face.
I'm actually glad you haven't actually.
That's what, I'm holding out.
Yeah, because I like the fact that the Master Chief never showed his face until like the last game for like a quick second. You see like kind of his blurred skin. It's like you see. Sometimes it works when you don't get to see. You don't have to see their faces because it's called self-character projection, where like your ideas of what he looks like will always be correct because you never actually see that's why Boba Fett worked so well.
Right. And that's kind of going against that grain. Is in the book of Boba Fett, he always has his helmet off.
Yeah,
and we don't want to see that.
But once again, it's almost like I had said earlier. Well, did we already get the Boba Fett series we want with a guy that never really takes his helmet off? So
maybe the first 2 episodes, yeah, but I don't really see Fett helping out Grogu though, or the old Fett that we knew. Let's just say that,
yeah.
I think it's the reason why they made it Mandalorian, or Din Djarin, so he wouldn't be as compassionate, I guess.
Right. I think they did it so they could break the mold in the ways they wanted to. Because Mando, he's obviously got a big, teddy bear heart. He wouldn't have taken care of a toddler for so long had he not. And I don't see Boba Fett doing that. But then I don't know, they kind of tempt us with that characterization that's similar, but it's just different enough.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
So Zach, where can people find Heir of Darkness? Where are you posting it?
So it is. It's typically posted on Rebel Scum and Yak Face, but it's also uploaded along with every single photo novel that you can imagine on the Photo Novel Alliance.
Really? Okay, that's cool to know.
Yeah, let me look at this real quick. I actually manage their Facebook page, which I've done a terrible job at doing.
Now, do they just do Star Wars photo novels, or do they do just everything?
I think they also Lance Quasar's Indiana Jones is on there as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that's that when he started last year. That was that one showed some promise because it was like he actually made it like those old 1930s serials, like Flash. Who knows what's going on today in the world? And you're like, oh, so I loved it.
Right. That's what it looks like. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's at least 40 different titles on here.
And now, how do they format it? Because on like Rebel Scum and stuff like that, in a forum, are you just posting like the text and photo, and then you basically reply to yourself with like the next photo and text?
It's inconvenient. I'll say that you have to also go through and you have to host those photos. You have to do like the IMG codes for each picture.
Oh, okay.
So I used to use PhotoBucket as my image hoster, and they really screwed the pooch really bad.
Yeah, they did. They quit letting people host hot link stuff or hot.
It was bad. Yeah, that's what it. Honestly, I've not worked on this title, for at least a year and a half, and that's one of the major issues. Is I used PhotoBucket religiously for 15 years for everything. And then now if you see those same photos, they're blurred out and they've got a PhotoBucket, watermark on them.
Yeah. Huge too. It's not small in the corner.
Right.
So now on the Photo Novel Alliance, that I take it it isn't like a forum post? Is that arranged differently where it's easier for people to read it there?
It's 100 times easier.
Okay.
Jodo,
Yeah.
I think Rebel Scum, when they upgraded their early last year or late last 2 years ago, because I don't have to host on Rebel Scum anymore. I can just straight hotlink, I can just straight drop it in, and they'll keep it as part of their archive.
I'm not for sure about Rebel Scum. I've not done it for so long.
Yeah, because I don't have to use because I like you, I was using Photo Bucket, and now Rebel Scum just accepts the picture wherever you get it from. You don't have to worry about.
Well, like
link.
Yakface, I've never had to host the photo elsewhere. I just upload it. But I have noticed with any photos I upload, it's about a 50-50 chance now, where sometimes it'll show it loaded 100% and then it gives me an error.
Right.
And sometimes I'll have the same photo elsewhere on my computer, but maybe it's just like slightly named different, and that one will work.
Check your formats, man. Sometimes like it doesn't like you'll take JPEGs over TIFFs and all that stuff.
Right, but it's
PNGs.
always JPEGs. When I go to upload a photo, the only difference between one that works and one that doesn't is sometimes I have the file size. I've compacted the file size a little bit, but it's not always the lesser size that works. I've had it the opposite, where the only edit I made was to make, like to what do they do it? It's called like compact for web or something like that. And sometimes it's the unedited one that goes. But it seems like 50% of the photos that I try to upload to yakface.com now, I get an error.
So I'm proud to announce, hopefully that's fixed in the near future, because we're actually redoing our forums.
Okay.
So hopefully that's fixed in the near future, because I had the same exact problem.
Nice.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I always tell people this. Yakface breaks a lot of news, and even though I don't have anything to do with that portion of it, I'm always really proud to be a part of that. But it's always so funny because that news disseminates across every single Star Wars website, and then no one uses our forum to talk about it.
Yeah.
They all go to like Rebel Scum or somewhere else, and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't wait. Jason just revealed this or said this. He's dropping hints." But I'm like, dude, we got forums. Come to our web, stay on our website and use our forums.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
I bet it's the format. Like I noticed a lot of Rebel Scum users are like old school guys, like easily as older, if not older than me and Eric, because we're in our early mid 40s, and these guys are like in their late 40s, late 50s, and so Rebel Scum still has that early 2000s ish motif,
right?
So it's more fun. Where Yakface has like that 2010 to 15 to 12, 2008 to 12 motif, like slightly new. I don't know why we want to use
you're
it.
saying that Rebel Scum has a lot of fixtures, and Yakface is younger and more transient on forums.
That's exactly it. The funny thing is, I started on forums when I was about 13, and my first quote unquote home was Galactic Hunter, and I learned so much stuff from those guys. I'm still friends with those guys on Facebook.
Isn't that Adam Paulus' site?
That is, yeah. So,
okay.
so there's a bunch of different people involved in that website, and it's changed over time. But that is the OG forum that I was on, and now that you say that, Rebel Scum is exactly the same format, and that was 17 years ago.
Yeah, see, I think it's just because old dudes don't like change, and they're like, and even though Yakface technically has a motif from like still 10 to 14 years ago, it doesn't look like it's just slightly a little bit more for the hip kids. Like,
Right.
Yeah, I actually like Yakface, so
I remember back in the early days of the internet, like the first three Star Wars sites I really went to, it was for collecting, it was Rebel Scum, and then a friend of mine had told me about Yakface, and so then Yakface joined that club, and theforce.net was like for my everything Star Wars news for like the long time.
The only reason why I even started on forums when I was young is I went to StarWars.com and they had a forum.
Yeah.
And I was on there for maybe about an hour and a half, and I knew a couple of things people were asking questions about. So I commented on it, and then I was almost immediately banned. So I was like, well, I got to find a new place to, I didn't know anyone else face to face that liked Star Wars, that collected, toys generally. So then I found, Galactic Hunter and Rebel Scum, the Force Net. There were Yoda's News was one.
Oh yeah, Yoda's. Yeah, they're still around.
They're still around.
The Imperial Holocron. They're still around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the good old days.
Yeah, those were. I mean, that's where you had to get your news from, because that was the social media we used back then, because there was nothing else.
Right.
No,
well, all right, we're at like 2.5 hours, so I think we're going to wrap it up a little bit here. Zach, how many chapters out of how many have you done?
I think we're on chapter 32 of 50.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you still have a ways to go then.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You'll get there, man. Don't worry about it.
The bad thing is really the prep, setting aside enough time to make the sets, to put the sets together, to set everything, to write the chapters, to edit that, completed picture. That's, like a 12-step process, and it's just a lengthy amount of time that goes into each chapter.
Yeah, so
that's what makes them good, though, man. That gives them the real quality and care of each chapter, though.
Yeah, that's the bad thing is in the back of my mind, I'm always like, cheap out on that. Don't buy 70 stormtroopers. It'll look fine with 30.
No, you just have to do, that movie trick where the camera just keeps changing, and it's like you look over to the left and there's 6 stormtroopers. You look over to the right, there's another 6 stormtroopers. There's 12 stormtroopers.
I did consider at one point in time, if I line them up in formation, if I put a couple mirrors in place.
Yeah.
What kind of trickery could I get from that?
Oh, yeah, that would work. Well, if you have 300 stormtroopers, you could still do that trick and have 600 stormtroopers. All right, man. So, we're gonna head out after I end the broadcast. So, if you guys just want to hang around, I do have one thing I wanted to mention then. So, where can people find you, Zach? Whether it's you on the forums or your work.
Yeah, so I'm on Yakface. I'm a moderator over there. I'm nothing on Rebel Scum. I do have a brand new Instagram that I started because I knew I was going to be on you guys' podcast. So it's just Zach McGeehon. But I post a little bit of news, but mostly just photography on there.
Right. And on the forums, you always just go by Jodo on the forums.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, cool. And you said your photo novel was Photo Novel Alliance.
Yeah, it is. Right. Yeah, photonovelalliance.com.
All right, cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. So Matt, where can people find you?
Usually on Instagram, just like Joe said. I'm usually at Rezakai the Ghost, or I am on Facebook and Twitter, but I only ever use Facebook for like occasionally post some action figure shots, but Twitter I hardly ever use at all. So mostly just get a hold of me on Instagram or on the forum, Rebel Scum forums. I'm also there. That's where me and Jodo first met. So
that was our first date.
All right, and again, I don't use social media a whole lot anymore. I'm on yakface.com as just Raylan, and not just Raylan, just Raylan. And also Raylan on imperialshipyards.net. And if someone wants to check out my business, they can go to holeinthegroundpro.com. They can also find Hole in the Ground Productions on Facebook, but I don't post there a whole lot unless it's to post new products. And I also started a new program that works like Patreon at a place called Buy Me a Coffee. And you can find links if you go to my website. You can find links to the Buy Me a Coffee program from there. So with that, we will bid everyone good night.
Kessel Run Collecting is sponsored by Hole in the Ground Production, where you can find a broad range of do-it-yourself diorama kits for 3 3/4 and 6-inch scale action figures. Check them out now at holeinthegroundpro.com. Be sure to like and subscribe on Rumble. Kessel Run Collecting is not affiliated with Lucasfilm or Disney. All sounds and images are property of their respective copyright holder.